Okay, men, welcome back. This is week 7, sexual safety and affection. You might be thinking this is coming quite late in this course, but we had to do all of that work in order to get to this point where we can actually even talk about sex and sexual safety and affection between you and your partner, because there may have been so many things in the way before we got here. Now, this is about creating the conditions where desire and safety and intimacy really flourish. Now, tonight, we step into a topic that lies at the heart of most relationship struggles: sex, intimacy, affection, desire. Those things are often at the core of what is, maybe you could say, going wrong in a relationship, or not there in a relationship, or is causing friction in a relationship. And if we're honest, most men have never been taught how this actually works, how real attunement and connection and sexual safety and intimacy actually works. We're told, communicate better, be more romantic, try harder, or just don't pressure her, don't put the pressure on. So all of these things are the things that we have been told, and none of that helps if you don't understand the deeper truth that women don't become more sexual when you try harder. They become more sexual when you feel more safe to them. Now, sex doesn't begin in the bedroom. Sex begins in her nervous system. When she feels safe enough to relax and let go, then she might be more open to the idea of sex. But she can't do that until she feels safe. If she doesn't feel understood, seen, attuned to, emotionally connected, if she's overwhelmed and stressed and carrying resentment, then her body will not open sexually. She will guard herself. So tonight is about learning what makes a woman feel sexually safe. It's not some game or some pickup tactics or smooth conversation starters or anything like that. It's the practical things that help a woman feel sexually safe. We'll also cover what shuts her down, how desire actually works, how to approach intimacy in the relationship from that perspective, and how to lead erotically with grounded masculine presence, and how to communicate consent and desire really clearly so that you can actually do that safely and that she is open to it. You're including her in this process, right? Sex isn't something you take, it's something that you collaborate in, it's something that you do together. Now, we're also going to cover how to make sex something that she wants, not something that she manages or something that you take. Now, a lot of the times people think that women just aren't interested in sex, or my partner isn't interested in having sex, or she just doesn't want to have sex. Now, women will only be interested in sex if sex is interesting. So this isn't about technique, it's not about performance, it's not about being good in bed. This is about becoming the man whose presence makes her feel safe and creates allure and an environment that is interesting, that she wants to be part of, and that you're including her fully in, instead of a man who, puts pressure on and maybe shames or blames or tries to manipulate someone into going into that space with them. So it's about creating a safe and interesting space for you guys to connect. So let's move on. So we're going to touch on protection mode versus erotic mode. So this is about the female's nervous system. So it's starting to understand how her nervous system works with regards to sex. And we're going to look at protection mode versus erotic mode. So let's begin with something every man must understand. Women have these two nervous system modes. Protection mode is when she feels pressure, tension, emotional disconnection, judgment. Judgment is a huge one. Stress, resentment, fear of disappointing you, fear of not being good enough, fear of things being rushed and it not feeling good. So many women have had so much sex in their life that didn't feel good because they were just doing it and just getting to a point for him. They were rushing through their own bodies, alarm systems, their own bodies' disdain for this moment, or their own bodies' resistance. They just pushed through it and they rushed through it, and they went into something that they didn't really enjoy, weren't enjoying, or didn't want to do. And a lot of the time, it's because they fear that they won't be understood. So there's a big fear of being misunderstood, that they can't state their needs because it will provoke or antagonize. And instead, what they do is they don't speak, but they go into this protection mode, and their body closes off, and the arousal shuts down, and her erotic system goes offline. Now, This is not a choice. It's physiological. They don't choose this. They're not consciously choosing that they don't want to be turned on right now. It is the environment that they're responding to. We are a product of our environment. And if our environment makes us feel unsafe, then our physiology responds to that. So it's about making sure that you are creating the perfect environment for her to come out of protection mode and into erotic mode. So erotic mode happens when she feels safe, connected, relaxed, unrushed, understood, seen, appreciated, emotionally attuned to, and not responsible for your feelings. So that you are in charge of your own feelings, and that any decision that she makes, even up to the point where you are about to have sex and she changes her mind, that would have no effect on you whatsoever, and you would be totally fine with it. She needs to know that you're responsible for your feelings, not her. Now, when she enters this mode, the erotic mode, her body starts to soften. When she feels safe, it softens. Her breath starts to deepen, and she is going into the parasympathetic nervous system. Her body is opening up. Her pelvis opens. Arousal activates. Pleasure rises, and desire really starts to wake up. Now, you cannot create eroticism if she is in protection mode. Your work is to shift her from protection mode to safety, to connection, to desire, into this erotic mode. So you're looking for protection all the way to erotic mode through safety, connection, and desire. Then everything you learn tonight will help you lead that transition. So let's look at the difference between male and female arousal patterns. Now, here is the simplest way to understand why so many couples struggle with intimacy. It's like men are what's called point arousal, and women are context arousal. So for men, it's physical arousal equals emotional openness. And for women, emotional openness equals physical arousal. So it's a cosmic joke that we are other ends of the spectrum on this. We are almost not compatible unless somebody decides, which if we're trying to gain access to something, we can't just boot the door down. We've got to work our way in. We've got to make sure that the door opens safely. So it's on us to understand her emotionally, create emotional openness so that we can, not that we're trying to crack or like win at something here. It sounds terrible, but we're trying to create physical arousal. Maybe we're turned on and we want to instigate sex, but it's just not possible because we're bypassing this emotional openness stage and we're trying to go to physical arousal, which is where we would connect. But if we want great sex, I mean, guys, you can have sex that is just a quickie or like it's not that enjoyable, it's not amazing, it's not groundbreaking. But if you want to have sex with the person that you love most in your life and you want to connect in that way, why not make it amazing? Why not make it spectacular, sensational? So do this, like move towards emotional openness into physical arousal, not the other way around. Because what happens for us is that men warm up really quickly, and women warm up gradually. Like we get there quite fast, right? We become turned on or aroused very quickly. Women take a lot longer because a lot of the time they are in their heads quite a lot. They are thinking and strategizing and creating and testing and thinking. And in order for them to drop down into their body, we have to connect with them emotionally through conversation, connection, talking, sharing, opening up, so that we can allow them to drop. It's almost like we're exhausting the mind so they can drop into the body, or allowing her to exercise her mind so that she can drop into the body. Once she's able to drop in the body, that's when physical arousal can actually happen. Now, men go from stimulation to desire, and women go from relaxation to desire. So we want to be stimulated and then feel desirous. Women want to relax. That's when they feel desire. When they soften, and that might be like a pin drop moment for a lot of people listening. We want to like go, go, go. That's the masculine prerogative, is like assertiveness, accomplishment, progression. Women want to relax and feel and create and think and share and flow in a process. It's a relaxation. That is what gives them the space for desire to actually happen. And a man becomes erotic when something excites him. A woman becomes erotic when nothing threatens her. So, in the absence of threat, she can actually get into that state of mind. So, we have to try and remove again from the environment everything that might threaten her safety. And these things explain most misunderstandings. The question is not, how do I turn her on? The question is, how do I create the emotional and relational conditions where her body naturally becomes open to me? I'll say that again. How do I create the emotional and relational conditions where her body naturally becomes open to me? Now, really have a think about that. What does that look like for you? And if you don't know, we're going to explore it more in this lecture. But just to start and frame it like this, we are trying to create the perfect conditions for her body to naturally open. Now, why her body opens in stages is what I want to move on to next, because there are three erotic gates that we need to kind of move through in order to support her to become aroused and to feel desire. And this is one of the most useful concepts from modern sex therapy, is that women move through these three gates to reach erotic availability. And gate number one is emotional openness. Gate number one is emotional openness. Does she feel connected, valued, understood, and safe with you? If not, the gate stays closed. Gate number two is physical relaxation. Is her body relaxed, safe, grounded? Is it warm? Is the room warm? Are her senses being supported? Are you enjoying music, taste, touch, sound, smell? And is it nice and warm? Is her body relaxed and safe and grounded? If not, her body physically cannot open, so that gate stays closed. Gate number three is erotic responsiveness. This is where desire and arousal and sensuality and erotic energy come in. Here is the point that most men try to open gate three first. They try and go to gate three first. They try to go there straight away. They bypass emotional openness, gate one, physical relaxation, gate two, and they try to get erotic responsiveness at gate three. It is a sequential order. We cannot circumnavigate gates one and two and go straight to gate three, because when most men try to open gate three first, it never works. Your job is to connect emotionally, help her feel physically safe, and then explore eroticism from there. Respecting these gates makes intimacy natural, not forced. So, how do we create the environment for erotic safety? Now, there are 5 conditions that we've got to present for a woman to feel sexually safe with us. And that, we've spoken about it before: predictability, predictable presence. So the conditions we have to create for this environment is predictability. Now, a lot of women do enjoy spontaneity within sex, and that's great. And if they want to lead the spontaneity, fantastic. If they feel physically and emotionally safe enough to be spontaneous, great. Predictable presence is what gives them that space, that ability, because they can't be spontaneous if everything's unpredictable. So if their environment is unpredictable, they can't be spontaneous because they don't know if what they're about to do is going to clash with what's going on with you or going to cause a conflict. So us being predictable, predictably present, so it's not like an emotional roulette, essentially. She knows which version of you she's getting today. So when you are predictably present, she knows which version of you she's getting today. So she can kind of relax into that. She knows the man that she's getting today, right? Number two is emotional steadiness. So your presence doesn't fluctuate with her mood. It just stays steady. You can hold tension and charge without collapsing. The ability to actually hold on to that charge and not have it either overspill or overflow or collapse inwards. And that might be sexual charge. Instead of like being desirous and grabby and touchy and everything else, you're holding that in. You're emotionally steady. You're not letting that charge affect your emotions. Number three is slowness. Slow the fuck down. When you look at the website OMG Yes, oh my god yes, it's a tutorial based resource for the female orgasm. So I encourage you to go in and watch it, or type it in, or sit with your wife if it doesn't feel uncomfortable or awkward, and explore that, because it is a gateway, or a window rather, into the female orgasm and what women typically enjoy. And from that, you can see again and again and again and again women saying, slow down, slow down, slow the fuck down. Don't touch there just yet. Don't go straight to the button. Just try and build up eroticism, build up pleasure without rushing to that one point, because it's goal oriented. Then they know it's goal oriented. If you're going straight there, but it's too much too soon. So rushing is what actually kills eroticism. A lot of the time you might think that, yep, she's ready, she's ready, she's ready, and you're still going too fast. So slowing down builds the pressure, builds the kind of erotic energy. And it's built in pauses, it's built in stopping, it's built in avoidance of touching specific areas and genital touch, and just like really pleasure mapping. I call it pleasure mapping your partner, finding out which parts of their body are erogenous and they enjoy being touched. It's not about where you want to touch, it's about where they enjoy being touched. If you're thinking about trying to um, fix or get an engine going, right? It's not what you decide, like, I want this bit to work. It's like, no, like, what does the engine need? What parts need to be tuned? What parts need to be tightened? What parts need to be fixed so that the engine starts to work? We don't decide that. It's just the engine is deciding. We have to respond to that and just be guided with this pleasure map. Number 4 is attuned touch. So this is where the pleasure map comes in. Touch that listens, touch without an agenda or a goal, touch that explores without expectation. We are actually being guided and following, seeing if we can really become attuned and notice where the energy is, where her sexual and erotic energy is, and is it moving up and down the body? Can you find where it is? Can you see where it is when you're touching? Slow down, avoiding genitals. Can you pleasure map? Can you just slow down and have a touch that listens to her? That's when she will feel a difference. When it's not oftentimes with palm, sometimes with the back of your hand. She knows that's not you can't grab from the back of your hand, right? So anytime it's with the palm, sometimes there's a worry that it's going to be a bit gropey or it's going to go somewhere. Whereas if we use the back of the hand, we're actually warming things up and it feels safer because it's a touch that's really paying attention and it doesn't have an overall agenda. 5th and final one, no pressure. Her body will not open where there is an obligation, where she feels obliged to pleasure you or serve you in any way. Now, that might come later once you fix all this stuff. But right now, her body will not open where there is an obligation. If these 5 conditions, so predictability, emotional steadiness, slowness, attuned touch, and no pressure, if these 5 conditions are present, desire becomes possible. Desire becomes predictable. Desire becomes available. Even if one of them is missing, her system closes down. Okay, and you're back outside all 3 gates that we spoke about before. So it's important that you have to really focus on these 5 environmental conditions that we have to give her in order for her body to soften and open. Now let's talk about what kills sexual safety for your partner. So we've got the 5 conditions that we need to create, but what actually stops sexual safety? What takes it away? Now these are behaviors that shut down, your partner's erotic system really, really quickly. And number 1, we've kind of already covered it, is rushing, going too fast. This helps her or makes her feel unsafe and tightens her up when she's not ready for something. It's like anybody, right? If you're not ready for something and it's all of a sudden like pushed on you, it's overwhelming. It's too much. So by rushing, she feels unsafe and she'll automatically have a shot of adrenaline that goes through her body, and the adrenaline counteracts the oxytocin that she might have had. We're looking to create the maximum amount of oxytocin in her body. So slow, safe, warm, calm, peaceful, eye contact, breathing, chatting, conversation, emotional connection, oxytocin, oxytocin, oxytocin. The second you start rushing it, it becomes scary. And that's when adrenaline comes in. Adrenaline counteracts all the oxytocin. Now she's in a fight or flight state and she can't engage erotically from a fight or flight state. Number 2 is pressure, even subtle pressure. Like, do you want to? Asking questions, giving her the option. More decision fatigue from last week now in the bedroom, right? Do you want to? Can we try this? What about this? Like, take the lead without dominating. So leading without dominating, being responsive to her, but still in the lead. Don't apply pressure or ask loads of questions because she will become fatigued by that and actually build resentment that you don't know. Even though it's hard for you to know and sometimes impossible for you to know, the fact you're asking a question instead of slowly testing, I think it's because we rush and we put pressure on because we want to get somewhere in this, and maybe we don't have enough time, maybe all these excuses that we think of, but actually slow it down and remove the pressure and stop asking questions and try and learn through, you know, exploration. Learn through exploration, and don't take it personally if it's not the right thing. Just go understand it. Okay, cool, and move on. That's what really helps. Number three is disappointment. So the the third thing that kills sexual safety is disappointment. If her no changes your mood, intimacy becomes dangerous. Okay, so if she says no and you do respond like that, that's when she's going to take that as a sign that, no, okay, well, I'm dealing with an immature man here and he's not willing to actually listen to me. He's not even respecting me by listening to my no. So how could I possibly be intimate with this person if he doesn't respect me? Okay, so if you show disappointment or any form of angst or like charge, she is going to feel like that's dangerous, right? Because who knows how close you are to just like a full on mood and like anger uh, outburst. So she will just shut down. And again, adrenaline comes in, stops her connection, no oxytocin. She can't engage in any form of intimacy now. Number four is the emotion, the emotional reactivity. So the anger, frustration, sulking, shutting down. And this, again, just makes her feel like your volatile emotions are not something that she wants to be connected to. Number five is a really common one that I deal with a lot is porn conditioned touch. So this will kill her sexual safety faster than anything is porn conditioned touch. So too fast, too intense, too direct, too almost grotesque. There's no reverence. There's no um, demure in it. There's no love in that kind of touch when it's really fast and gropey and aggressive almost. That is telling her that you're just recounting things that you might have seen, you might have watched. And she knows that most men watch porn and some men are addicted to porn. And she may have watched this too, right? So she may see it too. So she knows exactly what's happening. She can feel that touch is um, something that you've learned. You've learned how to touch in that way. It's too fast, too intense, too aggressive, too direct, too goal oriented. It's like just going straight to the thing, which is an unrealistic expectation that porn gave us. Number six is hidden agendas. She can feel when your affection is a setup, when you want it to go somewhere. She knows that you have a hidden agenda, and she can tell when you're kind of angling for something, when you're moving towards somewhere. And imagine the converse, okay? Imagine you were just being purely platonic, being affectionate, but not sexual, and just built that energy up over days, weeks, even if you're able to abstain and just like hold that charge, you would be completely in charge of your emotions, your agenda, your sexual energy, and she would start to feel safe. I'm not suggesting that you do this, but it's just to kind of illustrate how when we move quickly, when we rush, when we put pressure on, when we touch in a certain way, all of it feels like we have this hidden agenda that we just want to have sex. We just want to do this thing and it's for us and we want to take it. And sometimes we believe it's ours. And she doesn't feel respected or revered in that setup. She doesn't feel like you're really doing this with her in mind. What you're doing it in mind is you and your own body. You want to have an experience and you're going to try and make it happen, rather than you want to collaborate in an experience and you want both of you to experience it together. So all six of those are rushing, pressure, disappointment, emotional reactivity, porn conditioned touch, and hidden agendas. If we can remove those patterns, it's the beginning of erotic repair, because most partners, most female partners that I speak to, have got a lot of this repair to do because they've just been giving out of obligation and duty, and never, or not never, but have rarely fully enjoyed the experience to the depth of what they know they're capable of. So removing some of these patterns and starting to work on this is the beginning of real erotic repair, like letting her be in her fullness and just loving it, not needing to go anywhere, just enjoying the process, because that's the feminine. Feminine is process, masculine is progress. If we want to love her on her level, we have to start to move into the process of lovemaking and eroticism and enjoy it with her, because that's her realm. That's where she is at her best. So giving her power, which is revering her and honoring her and respecting her, doing all of those things allows the best experiences to happen. So the 5 erotic fears that women have that I've heard most often, and this also is backed by a lot of Esther Perel's insights and modern sexological bodywork and sex therapy. Now, these 5 things you might be surprised of, you might know, you might have had a conversation with your partner about these things, but they are so powerful. And women often carry real deep fears and wounds around sexual intimacy. Now, these fears are rarely spoken, which is why I say you might not know them, but they're deeply felt, deep in their bodies, in their nervous systems, in their somatic body. They feel these things. There is so much fear around sexual intimacy for so many women because the way that our cultures view sex and intimacy, particularly in the West. Number one is the fear of being judged. And that's her body, her reactions, her pace, her performance, her desire. Women will often have a fear of being judged sexually, intimately, in the bedroom, and letting you down. So that's number 2, fear of disappointing you. There's this fear of letting you down and that they are not good enough for you. Fear of not being able to please you or pleasure you, and that will ultimately lead to some kind of infidelity or separation. So these 2 first fears, the fear of being judged and the fear of disappointing you, are deep in the core of so many women. And number 3 is the fear of being rushed. And that is a fear of not being considered. So being rushed, pushed past, moved on to a point that she's not ready for. She's not being considered. She's just being pushed on. And her nervous system is not ready for it. Her body is not ready for it. But she is feeling pressured to do it anyway. Number 4 is the fear of being too much or not enough. So on both ends of the spectrum, too much or not enough. And she doesn't know which side to come at it from. She doesn't know which one she is feeling, but she has a fear to be too much or not enough. She ends up doing very little because she doesn't want to embody either end of that spectrum. And she feels ashamed either way. If she's too much, she feels ashamed. If she's not enough, she feels ashamed. So she just goes neutral, right? She doesn't want to explore. She shuts off that kind of explorative mind and the ability to just let go and be free. So it's like this fear of being too much and not enough removes the freedom for her, and she feels trapped. She feels trapped in this dynamic, this erotic exchange. Number 5 and final one is the fear of losing emotional safety. Now, emotional safety is, as we've discovered, is at the absolute core of her erotic charge. If she has emotional safety, she can become this beautiful erotic being. When that's taken away, so the fear of losing this emotional safety actually causes so much destabilization for her. It's almost like she's sitting waiting for an alarm to go off. She's sitting in a room, maybe she's listening to imagine listening to a beautiful song, and then a smoke alarm goes off and you're like, wow, it's so disrupted. And then the alarm goes off and the song continues, but you can't really fully listen to the song the same way that you were being immersed in it before, because the smoke alarm might go off again and that's a memory you have. So it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I can really enjoy this song because that alarm's going to go off any minute now. And then it goes off again. You're like, it's the nervous system just gets all jangled. You can't fully let go and release. So she has this fear of losing emotional safety, which keeps her rigid and overstimulated, overwhelmed. Now, if sex changes how you treat her afterwards, her erotic body will close. So in terms of the emotional safety, maybe you've had sex and then you shut down or remove, or you fall asleep and you've lost your charge, or you seem uninterested or disinterested in her. All of her fears are coming out then. All of our fears are confirmed. Oh yeah, he just wanted me for that. He was just doing it for him. He wasn't really considering about me. We've had sex now, and now I'm obsolete. I'm no longer needed. So essentially, if sex changes how you treat her, and you lose that charge, that allure, that drive for connection and closeness and reverence for her, then why would she have sex with you? Because she knows where that leads: a lack of emotional safety, a disconnection, a deflation of you, and an abandonment. So she doesn't have emotional safety. Sex doesn't equal emotional safety. Sex equals I feel alone. So how can we revert that back now? How can we start to bring sex equals I'm here for you even more? Sex equals I'm going to show up even more in the home. Sex equals, oh wow, now it's your turn again. And sex equals like, what else can I do for you? I just love you so much. This is beautiful. I'm just feeling so connected to you. How can we bring in that emotional safety rather than just deflating, sometimes going to sleep, and that's it. It's over. And she's like, basically, because as we see in so many couples, we will have this peak charge, this peak erotic charge, and for the man specifically, and once he reaches climax, his charge drops out. That is the point where a woman's charge starts. So we're building up, building up, building up, building up, building up, and her charge just started, and then we deflate. So where does she go from here? Now she feels alone and horny. So she's like, well, this wasn't what I signed up for. This now I feel like really let down, and I can't say anything because it's going to make him angry. So we need to figure out how we stay here together and even increase it after we've had sex, because the sexual charge doesn't drop out for a woman after sex. It just begins. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about the erotic accelerators, like how we build up to there. So how we can actually start to build up to that point where we've got the charge, and then we know what we need to do afterwards. But how do we actually get there? What increases her desire? Now for you probably know, but for her you probably don't actually know that much, or you think you know and continually get it wrong. So let's really explore what it is for most women. Now, these are 4 conditions that turn on a woman's erotic system. Number 1 is novelty. So a change of either environment or dynamic, but that can be in the same environment, can be in the same space that you normally do, but you're changing it slightly. Candles, scents. I talk about the 5 senses, like working the 5 senses, or stimulating the 5 senses. So sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. Try and do something that pleasures all of these different senses. Nice music, nice food, nice smells, really nice touch that we've spoken about before. Maybe, everything you can do to try and create a spectacle for the senses. This creates novelty. It changes the environment. Even if it's the same space, it can be totally transformed into something beautiful, and it enters into this new dynamic where maybe you're able to speak in certain ways. Your novelty also takes in dialogue. Can you actually talk differently? Can you talk during sex and foreplay? Can you actually bring some kind of like role play, not necessarily in its kind of highest form, but can you start to change how you interact and change that dynamic in the lead up to sex? Because we're not talking about sex right now. We're talking about what are the erotic accelerators. Novelty is number 1. Number 2 is anticipation, the build up, teasing, imagine connection, texts, notes, nice touch, platonic touch. Like I said earlier on about building up for days, even weeks, like really owning that and building the anticipation. So many women enjoy most women are quality time dominant love language. So that can be used as a kind of anticipatory erotic charge. You can actually spend so much quality time together that isn't leading towards sex. When they start to feel that, as long as you're in it and you're like really present and devoted to them and creating connection through conversation, you can then use that and build up, tease, and create this connection that lasts a number of days before you then move towards engaging with her sexually. Number three is emotional connection. So she needs to feel chosen and valued, respected, and held. Chosen, valued, respected, and held. When she feels those things, she is ready to emotionally connect to you. And as we've spoken about, that is the one of the gates that allows you into her erotic world. Number four is presence, your attention, your breath, your energy, and how much you are focusing fully on her. So your energy isn't all over the place. You're not erratic. You're actually able to focus your attention on her completely. So you're totally present and aware with everything that's going on, aware of everything that's going on. So essentially, you can follow her movements, her breath. You're able to touch and respond beautifully because you're totally present. You're not distracted elsewhere or trying to get somewhere. You're just in the moment. Now, all of these things create safety, and safety opens these gates. Accelerators invite her inside. So, creating the safety opens the gates. These accelerators, novelty, anticipation, emotional connection, and presence, actually invite her inside. Once you're inside, it's important to talk about sexual compatibility. Okay, so once we are in that space, we're going to talk about sexual compatibility. It isn't something that you're born with. It isn't something that you know. It's something that you create. It's not like a genetic disposition or propensity. It's something that you create. You can mold your own kind of sexuality to whatever you want, whatever suits you, whatever suits your partnership, whatever suits your relationship, and it includes um, your sexual compatibility includes your preferred pace, like how fast you want to move, um, like how fast or slow you're able to move. It includes your erotic present preferences, like what do you actually enjoy. It's also built up of your sexual history, your touch preferences, your emotional needs, um, your erotic blueprints and her erotic blueprints, as a compatibility, and we'll get into that in a minute. So in terms of your erotic blueprints, like how compatible are those? um, Erotic compatibility actually involves fantasies as well, like what fantasies you might have, and any kind of cycle based shifts that she might go throughout the month, and how you might be feeling as well. So, hormonal shifts that you might need to be mindful of. Also includes communication styles and relational safety. So, how you talk to each other and how you create the environment and the conditions for emotional connection. Compatibility is built through curiosity, asking questions, talking. So, like sitting down and finding these things out. You cannot assume somebody's sexual compatibility markers. It's a conversation. It doesn't have to be two-way. You can try these things and just really pick up on them and learn them, or you can ask the questions. You can try and learn preferred pace, find out erotic preferences, talk about sexual history, um, figure out touch preferences and emotional needs, talk about your blueprints and her blueprints, talk about fantasies that you have and that she has, understands cycle-based shifts and hormonal shifts, and having already worked before in previous weeks around your communication styles and relational safety. All of these things allow you to understand whether you're sexually compatible or not. And one of the most important things for sexual compatibility is your core erotic theme. So every person has a core erotic theme, the emotional or psychological pattern that fuels their own desire. So essentially, hers might be surrender, or being adored, or being wanted, being chosen. It might be intensity. It might be adventure. It might be emotional closeness and softness. It might be safety. It might be power play. It might be seduction. All of these things are core erotic themes. So understanding what that is allows you to kind of bridge the gap between, platonic emotional connection into the erotic framework, right? Okay, great. What do I know her core erotic theme is? So as I'm starting to kind of build up this erotic charge to get to this peak point, what are the things that I'm actually using? What am I actually looking for? What am I trying to do for her? Am I trying to create situations where she feels adored? Am I are we using power play? Does she like that? Does she like safety, or does she like adventure, or voyeurism, or intensity? Like, what is the core erotic theme that drives her desire? And what's interesting is your theme might be completely different. And understanding each other's core erotic themes creates erotic alignment instead of confusion. Like, oh, I thought you liked this because I kind of like that, but or maybe you don't like it. But it's understanding the core erotic themes that brings you closer together, because then you can actually start to map a bridge. Let's say your core erotic themes are different. You can start to create a line that goes between two of them, and you meet on that line, you meet on that bridge. So whether hers is one thing and yours is another, it's about how you create a pattern or an exercise or a situation where you can both meet with elements of your own things. But you can't do that unless you have conversations about it. And one of the best models that we use to remove confusion is the erotic blueprints. There are 5 core erotic blueprints, different to core erotic themes. Erotic blueprints are 5 categories that most people fall into when it comes to how they like to engage in sexual activity or intimacy. Number 1 is energetic, 2 sensual, 3 is sexual, 4 is kinky, and shapeshifter. Energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. So energetic is somebody who's more interested in anticipation and space and teasing and time. Sensual is somebody who's more interested in atmosphere and full body touch and slowness and kind of adoration. Sexual is somebody who likes to be direct and obvious and kind of genital focused, like very direct towards sexual touch. Kinky is maybe more taboo, power dynamics, role play, BDSM, like that kind of thing. Shapeshifter is a multi-dimensional, so they could be all of these. You know, the needs vary. They could find themselves in one energetic, sensual, sexual, or kinky, and then another one another day, and they kind of move between all of these things. Some people say that they are a shapeshifter because they don't really care, or they don't really mind, or like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm all of those things at different times. That doesn't mean you're a shapeshifter. Shapeshifter is somebody who enjoys being all of those things at different times. Actually, that is their preference to move. It's not like a passive thing, it's an active thing. Shapeshifter is somebody who's like, yeah, I like to do this, and then I like to do that, and then I like to do this. Not just like, I'm not bothered, I'm happy with whatever. That's not a shapeshifter, that's lazy. So you're either energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, or a shapeshifter. So it's, again, another conversation that you can actually start to have with your partner about what is it that you enjoy when we are being physical or intimate. Like, what is it that pleases you or pleasures you the most? Most women are either sensual or energetic, and most men are sexual, which is probably unsurprising. But now that you know that, again, you've got these two kind of not opposites but differences. Somebody might be the energetic is about anticipation and space and teasing and time. The sexual is about directness and, you know, it's obvious and it's, you know, focused and goal oriented. So they are opposite. How do you create a bridge between those two? And I can't prescribe that for you. That is only made, that bridge is only made through a conversation where you both meet on that bridge, giving each other what you both need and being able to pleasure yourselves and each other in a way that is mutual. So again, these erotic blueprints are really, really useful, and understanding this framework alone creates massive breakthroughs, because sometimes when there's ambiguity and confusion, we just find ourselves not knowing and feeling a bit lost. And that can be really, really difficult in a relationship. But some of these conversations that you're having help bridge that gap. Okay, I want to bring things back in a little bit now that we're kind of like building this up. I want to bring us back to one of the most important elements of erotic connection, sex, and intimacy, and that is consent. We can't go any further until we talk about this. It's such an important part. And this comes from the sexuality educator Betty Martin. She created a framework called the Wheel of Consent. It's the foundation of safe, clear, erotic connection. Now, we're going to explore something that will completely change the way you think about intimacy now. This is one of the most important frameworks for creating sexual safety, erotic clarity, and mutual pleasure for you and your partner. Now, most people misunderstand consent. They think consent means yes or no, permission, or agreement. But what Betty Martin says is that consent is not just what you agree to, consent is understanding who the touch is for. So it's not what you agree to, it's understanding who the touch is for. Now, the central question of the wheel, who is this touch for, is the question that changes everything. In sex and intimacy, couples often touch without clarity, touch with hidden agendas, touch to get something, touch because they feel obligated to, touch because it's expected of them, and touch without knowing what they actually want. Now, what this does is it creates pressure and confusion and shutdown and ultimately resentment. Now, the wheel of consent solves that, and it's based on a circle with 4 quadrants. Now, the wheel has 4 experiences of touch. 2 are about serving, so giving to the person, and 2 are about receiving. Quadrant 1 is serving. I do what you want. So this means you touch your partner for her benefit. So you are giving touch for something else, for her. It's not for you, it's for her. You're touching your partner for her benefit with her guidance based on her desire. You are the doer and she is the receiver. This is you serving her pleasure. So an example might be she asks you to stroke her hair. She tells you how to massage her. She guides your hands in how she wants to be touched. Healthy relationships need this quadrant, and it builds trust, safety, surrender, and real ease in sexual connection. Quadrant 2 is allowing. So you do what you want and I allow it. So this is very misunderstood. This means she touches you for your benefit while you allow yourself to receive. So you are the receiver and she is the doer. This is you letting yourself be pleasured. Men struggle with this quadrant most because they're they're not used to receiving mostly. They might feel guilty, they might feel selfish, they might feel awkward being touched without giving back. So helping men practice allowing can be really, really transformative. Now, this quadrant builds vulnerability, relaxation, embodied pleasure, and feelings of being really cared for. So quadrant 3 is in the taking. So in the taking section, taking half of the wheel. This is I do what I want and you allow it. So this is the most taboo one and the one that couples desperately need to understand, because this quadrant does not mean dominance, doesn't mean selfishness or aggression. It means you touch your partner for your own pleasure with her full consent while she agrees to simply allow it. So you are the doer and she is the receiver. This is claiming what you want while respecting her boundaries and pacing and comfort. Now, this quadrant often reignites eroticism because it creates real clarity and it creates connection, creates real connection based on consent and boundaries and um, comfort for your partner. So it sounds like, this is what I want, this is how I want to touch you, and she gets to say yes or no with honesty. And Betty Martin says that taking is only ethical with permission. Without permission, it's pressure. With permission, it's erotic power. So final one, quadrant receiving. So quadrant 4, receiving. You do what you want and I gift it to you. So this is her taking for herself. So you're giving, but she's asking for it. So you're the doer, you're touching, but she's asking it. So this is the quadrant where she uses her body for her pleasure. She directs the experience. She explores what she likes. She plays, she experiments, she discovers. You are the giver and she is the receiver. This quadrant is essential for women reclaiming pleasure. So healing sexual shame, rebuilding erotic confidence in themselves, finding her voice in the bedroom. When this quadrant is cultivated, women often come alive erotically. So the two biggest revelations for men within the wheel of consent is that touch is not always mutual. Betty Martin teaches that every touch has a doer, a receiver, and a benefit. So misunderstanding these rules can cause, again, pressure, obligation, people pleasing, resentment, shutdown, lack of desire. And once couples clarify who the touch is for, everything starts to change. So you need all four of these quadrants for a thriving erotic connection, right? Most couples live only in two. Serving, I do what you want. So I'm doing what you want. You're telling me and I'm just doing it for you. Mutual touch that's actually unclear. Neither are really receiving because, I'm just doing what you want and there's no real clarity there or permission. But true erotic vitality requires serving, allowing, taking, and receiving. Clarity creates freedom. Freedom creates safety. Safety creates desire. Clarity creates freedom. Freedom creates safety. Safety creates desire. Now, why this matters for women is so important, and why it matters for their sexual safety is so important, because women need to know exactly what you're doing. Even just to begin with, and then we can become spontaneous as the connection in this realm becomes a little bit more evolved. But they need to know exactly what you're doing. They need to know whether you're touching for her or for you. And most women will say like, you're just doing this for you. Even when it's like a kiss or a hug in the kitchen, they feel groped. They feel taken from. You're taking from them all the time. What would happen if you gave to her touch that was giving, touch that was for her? And then she doesn't feel pressure. She doesn't feel an expectation, or she gets to, say yes or no in the wheel of consent. All of these things matter because her voice matters, her boundaries matter. And then when she knows that they are being respected, she can actually surrender. So the way that Betty Martin teaches this is using something called the 3-minute game. This practice changes everything for couples, honestly. You ask two questions. Question one is, how would you like me to touch you for 3 minutes? Me to touch you. How would you like me to touch you for 3 minutes? She practices asking, you practice serving. Question two is, how would you like to touch me for 3 minutes? She practices taking and you practice allowing. Then you switch roles. This game is so simple and it just builds clarity and safety and the practice of consent and boundaries and attunement, because you might say no. You might, ask for something and have to deal with her saying no, or you want to say no. It all creates this real beautiful idea of consent. And when you can have these conversations, it breaks down some of the barriers that you might find are happening within the relationship, and you actually start to learn what touch, like real conscious touch, actually feels like in a relationship with regards to sex. Because pleasure is not created by technique, it's created by presence. Like conscious touch is being present in the moment. Conscious touch means moving slowly and feeling things like breathing together, letting her body lead, following micro responses, and being in your body and not in your head, and touching without an agenda. Real conscious touch is a really, really powerful practice. So we're almost at the end now. I know this is quite a lot and it's quite a big topic to cover, and I want to get as much through as I possibly can in this video. But there are a couple more points, two more points that I want to cover just before we finish today. And that is one, the art of containment. So masculine erotic leadership. Containment is the masculine ability to hold erotic charge without collapsing and rushing and grasping and performing, or losing presence or shutting down after the orgasm. A man who can hold his charge inside of his body, inside the moment, inside his presence. And I'm not saying I'm not advocating for semen retention, but I'm talking about the charge that comes with sexual, like eroticism. Can you hold that charge? If you're able to hold that charge and maintain it, it is so powerful. Containment is like masculine erotic maturity, in my opinion. So, like, how can we practice the art of containment and maintain that charge even through and after sex? The next thing I want to do is give you away a tool called the Sensate Focus Exercise. This is the gold standard for rebuilding intimacy. It's created by Masters and Johnson. This is the most powerful structured practice for rebuilding desire, and it involves 3 stages. Stage 1 is non-sexual touch. So no breasts, no genitals or erotic or erogenous zones, just exploring touch without pressure. This is what I was talking about earlier about the pleasure map. Find all the other places. Just enjoy pleasure mapping your partner and her, you, and non-sexually. Stage 2 is sensual touch. So still no goals. The body begins to kind of reawaken instinctively. So you're actually touching with more of an erotic charge, but still no genitals, no breasts, no erogenous zones or erotic zones, sorry. So you're actually just sensually touching. You're getting more into the intimacy of it. Then once you've kind of gone through that, and this might happen over the course of like a week or two where you practice these things, stage 3 is erotic touch. Now, only when both of you are relaxed, you feel safe, you feel connected, sensate focuses on the erotic touch, like building up to that erotic energy, that erotic touch, and actually stepping into a beautiful connection together. And what this practice does, when you practice the non-sexual, then the sensual, then the erotic touch, you're removing, performance pressure, fear, disappointment, fear, rejection, pressures to get it right, and it helps couples kind of reset that engagement, reset that point of connection, and start to really reawaken their intimacy, just slowly. It doesn't have to be rushed. It's got to be taken slowly and revered. And it's an important part of this, like learning how touch is needed and wanted from you both. So, practical tools for this week. I want you to try and program into your weekly flow an erotic check-in with your partner. It doesn't have to be called that, but an erotic check-in where you're talking about some of these things, where you're starting to build these things into the framework of your relationship to open up to more intimacy. I want you to plan the 3-minute game. Start playing the 3-minute game with your partner on a regular basis, and try and get into real erotic connection. But it's got to be consensual. It's got to be respectful, and where needed, boundaried, so that we can actually start to learn to trust each other again in sex and intimacy if that trust has been lost. I want you to talk about your blueprints, your erotic blueprints, the sensual, sexual, energetic, kink, or shapeshifter. Find out whose you are. Find out your core erotic theme. Actually do some conscious touch practice over the next couple of weeks, and use that sensate focus, stage 1 into stage 2 into stage 3 over the next couple of weeks, and see if it makes a difference that you're actually intentionally focusing on this. And have more conversations around consent and permission and what it feels like, without asking her to tell you. Just start learning about each other. Start actually trying to understand each other erotically, because intimacy isn't about being perfect. It's not about being on point. It's not about performing. It's not all about skill and the end game. It's about presence. It's about attunement. It's about safety and capacity and understanding. And when you create the emotional, physical, and nervous system conditions for her to feel safe, desire becomes really natural. Eroticism is free flowing, and affection becomes effortless. Sex stops being something that you chase and becomes something that you share. So sex becomes interesting again, because you're actually working towards it and you're working together. So tonight marks a turning point in how you show up as a lover, as a partner, as a grounded, safe, kind of erotically mature man. Okay, I'll see you next week.